I realized that none of this would have happened if that didn't happen first. And so there's genuine gratitude for the traumas that I went through. And even if that's not like somewhere that feels accessible to us right now, that can be a big thought. We don't have to think it. But I do really believe for all of us that it's possible to fully heal, to really, really uncouple stimuli from response, the thinking about it or remembering it from how our body responds to it and the emotional reaction to it. I really, really believe that. Okay. Yeah. This is the first workshop I've been to. I've only watched one short video many months ago. Welcome, Patricia. I'm so happy you're here. This is a really, really good place to begin to dive into my work and somatics in general. First somatic steak workshop with Kaira. First workshop ever. Good question, Charlene. Connect with you and your wisdom as always. Thanks, Nathalie. Feeling sleepy, kind of socially closed down. Is anybody else on their moon cycle right now? Are we feeling that? To bring all of yourself to me. I really love this song. I want you to bring all of yourself.
This song, everybody, this is one of Kaira's songs. So Kaira, just for a moment, will you turn this up? We'll let people listen to just 30 seconds and we'll get started.
I'm rewinding it just for this part. I want you to bring all of yourself to me, all of yourself to me, all of yourself to me. Bring me all of your sadness, your grief and your pain. Bring me all of your anger and all of your shame. I want all of you, I want every piece. I want you to bring all of yourself to me. I want you to bring all of yourself to me. I want you to bring all of yourself to me. I want you to bring all of yourself to me, all of yourself to me, all of yourself to me. Bring your intensity. Bring your shame.
Ah, beautiful. Welcome everybody to Emotional Mastery. I'm Charlene Parker and I'm hosting today on behalf of Aura Institute, and I get to bring to you my dear sister, Kaira Maestra. That was her music. That's actually one of the main first introductions I found to Kaira, is getting to feel the potency of her channel and what she's bringing in and what she stewards through her music, through her poetry. And it's amazing the things that we have access to in life that bring us to a state of connection, to awe, to wonder, to remembrance of the truth of who we are and why we're here. Dance, the sunset, the sunrise, a beautiful glacier lake surrounded by mountains, amazing lovemaking, good music. Like there's all these things that life has given us so that we can connect to ourselves, because that's what's really wanted, is for us to connect to ourselves, to each other, and to enjoy this beautiful creation, this beautiful paradise, this, the Garden of Eden, this earth. And there's so many things that get in the way of us really being present and enjoying, whether it's our guilt, our shame, our fear, our trauma. And so having tools that allow us to soften, to be available, to receive, to allow, to have pleasure, to enjoy, that is the point of any healing modality. And I think Kaira and I both come from a stance of, even if there's been big traumatic experiences in this life, there's nothing to fix. There's not necessarily anything wrong, anything broken with any of us, but there are things to repattern, to rewind, and ultimately just to learn, to recall how to use this vehicle, how to use like there is an operating manual. We just weren't necessarily given to it by our parents or by school. But what's so beautiful is that there is a way to really thrive rather than survive in life. And somatics has a very wide body of work as a modality, but there's many sects of somatics, right? Many different segments and many ways to explore and enter into the world of somatics and unconventional therapy. Ultimately, these tools and these practices should give you the results of a more beautiful life. And if they're not giving you a more beautiful life, then they may not be working. Then what's the point of them? Because sometimes people start working on their trauma and get so stuck on working on their trauma that they're not actually enjoying. And I say that because the reason I invited Kaira on to facilitate for today on behalf of Aura Institute is because I look at Kaira and her life and see it getting more and more beautiful. I see her with amazing relationships. I see her with amazing relationship, a beautiful man in her life. I see this new beautiful home she just entered into with him. I saw her left a beautiful but challenging relationship for a way more upgraded one. I see her free in her body and her expression. I see her playing. I see her out in the world, like experiencing and loving, right? So I see her in the world and I see her life expanding, her joy expanding, her vitality expanding. I see her making changes, pivots, growing, navigating through challenge with grace. And so I can see that what she's up to is actually working. And just like the people who go through the Aura Institute certification, their lives and their practices and their clients' lives start to work better for them. And so that's a way I gauge whether a facilitator is trustworthy is, does their life look cool? Does their life look like a life worth living? Are they role modeling a life worth living, which can look many ways, right? Can look many, many ways. So it's not about one way, but it's like, oh, I see. And so she's going to share some of her tools today that has supported her to have a life worth living. And I'll be here. I'll wrap us up at the end. I'll share a bit about the Aura Institute, who's hosting this. We have a gift for you from both Aura and from Kaira. Kaira has a free offering, again, to just receive more value from this. And so if you stay till the end, we're going to go for 75 minutes. And so at the end, we'll share a bit about what we're up to and how you can continue to be in this work with us. But for now, we'll spend the next about hour just in an experience with Kaira. So I'll be in the chat if you need anything, but otherwise, our trusted facilitator, take it away, my love.
Oh, thank you so much, Charlene. What a pleasure it is to be here. I have a quick logistical question because I see myself on the screen. I know that we'd like to record this, being able to see me, but I would love to see everyone. Is there a way that we can make that happen?
Yeah, so
I
if you
could
go on,
potentially also hook up another computer.
no, it's all good. Since
Okay.
I'm managing, you can view gallery and I'll still keep you
Oh, okay.
spotlighted and pinned for everybody else.
Okay. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but Zoom just moved everything around on my side. So
Yeah.
I think it's the top left now. Oh, no, wait. It used to be the top
Top
right. No,
right.
it is
Oh,
still the
view.
top right,
Yep,
but
I
it's
see
like
it. I see it.
yeah, they moved it.
Okay. Thank you for bearing with me through that. Wow, Charlene, thank you so much. I was so excited about this collaboration. We're going to cover, again, I think this is the best somatics workshop I've ever put together. So thank you so much for being here. Over 700 people signed up, which is like, wow, what an honor and an opportunity. I want to just start by saying that when Charlene came to me with this idea, I have a 2-month somatics training. Aura Institute has a somatics training. And I asked her, are you worried about like competition here? And what made me such a fuck yes to being here was her response. Because her response was one that you can only really master when you truly are living in the embodiment of there is more than enough to go around. There is more than enough healing. There is more than enough money. There is more than enough students. There is more than enough. And what's actually important about the work that we're doing is getting this information out there. I'm scaling back a lot of my trainings right now to create some new things in my business, but working with people that have really done the work on their inner worlds to be living in the realities that we want to live in, it makes it so beautiful. And I tell my students when they're like, oh, I'm kind of like teaching this, but it's not quite the same. I'm like, girl, teach it. Like teach the same stuff. Get this information out into the world. The mission that I live my life in pursuit of is building heaven on earth, one person at a time, one body at a time, one nervous system at a time, one healthy relationship at a time, one healed trauma at a time. And so, yeah, we're going to learn a lot about the fundamentals of somatic therapy, and we're going to pack a lot into this workshop. So let's get started. I'm Kaira Maestra, a musician, a somatics teacher, a person who's done a lot of trauma healing and really walks my talk. And again, I can't echo so much of what Charlene said. If you're going to be looking for mentors, instructors, make sure that their tools are not just keeping them on a hamster wheel of got to heal it, got to fix it, got to do this. You are already, all of us are already perfectly whole and complete. That's not the goal here. The goal here is, do we want tools that will help us give a different experience in our life experience? Would we like different tools to live a little bit differently and to get different results out of the situations that we find ourselves in, or to feel differently about the things that have already happened to us, not because we're broken, but because we would like to live a different experience than the one that we're currently living? So I'm going to just dive in here and start asking you guys some questions. But first, the whole basis of this therapy is that there are 5 inner senses that teach us about our emotional reality. We have 5. Oh, the speaker is speaking kind of fast. That's me. I'll try to slow it down, babe. There are 5 senses that we use to intake the world outside of us: sight, sound, taste, touch, smell. There are 5 senses that we use to sense the inner world inside of us. And based on which sense inside of us we focus on, we can have a direct impact over our nervous system. We can have a direct impact on our nervous system. So think, if you will, with me, about something that makes you feel deeply grateful or peaceful. And actually spend a second doing this with me, okay? So bring something to mind, an image, a memory, even just a raw feeling, like what is it? And see how you experience this feeling. If you want to go ahead and put in the comments what you are experiencing, the question you're answering is, how do you know that you are feeling this way? How do you know? What's your experience? Okay, we got shortness of breath. For me, I feel this energy moving up behind my sternum, and it kind of looks yellow in my imagination, and I can feel it expanding outwards. And I feel joyfulness. So we got a couple things here in the comments. We got a bubbliness, we got joyfulness, we got peaceful and full, smiling, deep vibrations, weightless. I have a weightless feeling. Beautiful. So how I learned about these 5 inner senses was straight from DMT. I was asked to learn how to facilitate DMT, which is a plant medicine that is the active ingredient in ayahuasca, but it's a smokable form of that medicine. I never expected in a million years that I would end up working as a plant medicine facilitator. But really crazy twists and turns happened in my life that led me there. And the medicine showed me these 5 inner senses that I'm about to lay out for you. I then got really curious, started to build my own therapy, because I saw that when people would surf the channels, put their awareness into different channels of awareness, explore these inner senses, that sometimes there would be this cathartic release. And afterwards, they would feel a relief from their trauma, a relief from their triggers. They would be a little bit different afterwards. So I started creating my own therapy to try to mimic what the plant medicine was doing. And then I found Somatic Experiencing International, which is a really great 3-year program that was very similar to what I was teaching. So I went to school with them, and I would learn from them, some people that studied directly under the pioneers of that therapy, that they would credit ayahuasca with teaching it to them. So basically, what I'm about to teach you today is a way to mimic the efficacy of plant medicine, but do it sober. Wouldn't it make sense? Because a lot of people do believe that plant medicines, there's like an intelligence behind them. There's like an intelligence that speaks through mushrooms or ayahuasca. Even if that's not your belief system, I'm not pushing that on you, but it is something that a lot of people do believe. And wouldn't it make sense that if an energy or consciousness were speaking to us through the experiences we have through these medicines, that it wouldn't necessarily speak English? Wouldn't that be a little exclusive? Wouldn't it speak in the framework of how our human bodies are designed to intake and export information? That's what these 5 channels are. So when you felt into this experience that made you feel peaceful or joyful, we have comments like bubbliness, vibration, weightless, or that energy kind of emerging. These are all inner sensations. That's one of the places that when we're sensing our internal experience, this is one of the places that our energy can be, that our awareness can actually tune into, like a channel on a TV. This channel is always on. All these channels are always on, but we often don't notice that they're on. But basically what I'm saying is that anytime you have an emotional experience whatsoever, it's going to come with inner sensations. Some of us are more tuned into that channel than others. Some people really have a hard time feeling these inner sensations. And then when they do mushrooms, they're like, whoa, I feel all of them all at once, because it kind of opens up your brain and helps your brain communicate with itself so that you're able to perceive what's happening anyway. But these are happening all the time, these inner sensations. Another thing people said was peaceful, joyful. happy, calm. Emotions are another channel of awareness. Inner sensations and emotions are the two that affect your nervous system the most. But we're going to go into all of them, okay? Other people said things like a change in their breathing, smiling. I'm willing to bet that somebody said a relaxed in their shoulders relaxed, their jaw unclenched, their eyebrows stopped furrowing. All of these things are a different channel called posture. So our posture, the way that our body is behaving, it includes everything: our breathing patterns, our eye movements, anything that we can control consciously, the way that we move our jaw, the tone of our voice. All of these are in the posture channel. It's any way our body is behaving. And this is a really good example of how these channels are always on. So our posture, we're always in a posture, whether we choose to notice that we are or not. If you've ever been in a yoga class that you were just in the movement, you were feeling it, or dance where you were just like feeling your body dance, then your awareness was fully tuned into the posture channel at that moment in time. But oftentimes we don't recognize that it's on. This is also a great channel for showing us what's happening in our unconscious mind that we might not be aware of. Because a lot of times, maybe we're not aware that we feel super uncomfortable, but we're kind of turning our body away from the conversation and our eyes are kind of darting towards the door. Because our unconscious is expressing what's happening through the posture channel, even if we might not be aware of it. The other channels that we have the most conscious control over, aka we can choose what we do with them the most, is the mind. So our thoughts. We can, if we're aware that we're thinking thoughts, if our awareness is in that channel, we can be like, oh, I don't want to think that thought. I'm going to think a different thought. I'm, instead of beating myself up, going to be supportive and kind to myself right now. That's me using the mind channel intentionally. Same with the last channel, imagination. I can choose to imagine something. Maybe when you were trying to evoke an emotion of gratitude or peace, you used the imagination to visualize something or imagine that you were somewhere. A lot of people, if they can't visualize, they're like, oh, I can't visualize, so I don't have an imagination. You do. Because a lot of times we can imagine that we are somewhere, even if we can't see it visually, right? So I laid these out: mind, imagination, the most conscious control over these two; posture, some conscious control when I notice it; sensations, not a lot of conscious control; and emotions, not a lot of conscious control. What I mean by that is when you're anxious and maybe your chest is feeling super tight, you can't just decide with your conscious mind to stop having your chest feel tight. Can't do it. You can choose to think more peaceful thoughts, and that might change the sensation. You can choose to do something with your body, like breathe differently, move yourself into a safer space. You can choose to behave a way with your body that might create a little bit of change on the sensation and emotion channels, but you can't really make the sensation and emotion channels do anything. You can create an environment for them to shift. Now, who here knows about the nervous system? Some basic awareness of what the nervous system is. Okay, see lots of hands. I expected that, but we're going to go over just a basic idea here. Your body distributes energy into your nervous system through two branches, aka the electrical conduit that is your body, that allows you to move and breathe. It controls unconscious processes like your heartbeat and your breathing rate when you're not paying attention to it. It allows your muscles to move because we're wired into this electrical system. Through the fascia, we are able to feel. Your nervous system allows you to feel anything. It's the reason that you can perceive touch. And it's the reason that you can feel those inner sensations. Now, these two branches, one of them, when your deep unconscious mind decides to distribute energy into one of them, it will calm you down and make you social and turn on your rest and digest mechanisms. It will give your body what it needs to be able to regenerate and turn on your immune system. And when your unconscious mind decides to distribute energy into the other branch that also weaves all throughout the body, it will escalate you and get you aroused, ready to fight or flight, have an orgasm, get excited, run a marathon. It's going to give you energy and distribute energy out to the outside of your body, to your muscles, so that you have more energy to fight, flight, run, get excited, get aroused, all the things. The problem with trauma and triggers is that this system stops distributing energy appropriately in the way that a really healthy nervous system would, in a way that it would be a pleasant experience to have, because it sometimes gets stuck in just one channel. It gets stuck sending energy into the channel that'll calm you down all the time, but it gets stuck there. So you get depressed and lethargic and fatigued and chronic fatigue and a lot of different autoimmune diseases because your body just can't escalate like it needs to. Or it gets stuck distributing too much energy into the branch, the pathways that would arouse you. AKA, you're anxious all the time. You're super tight. You're like a little bit on edge. You're way type A. You're a hair trigger to emotional drama and freaking out. And everything feels like a crisis. Or maybe your body is distributing energy really well. It distributes energy into this band for a little, up, you're going to sleep, we're over here, and into this one, we're getting up, we're like doing things during the day. Oh, here's time for a little bit of relaxation. Here is I got to do some stuff. And we titrate between these two branches of our nervous system. If you are a nervous system expert and this explanation is driving you crazy because it's not in depth enough, then let it go. This isn't for you. This is for people that are really tuning in for the basics of what this system really is. We're not going to spend that much time here. So now that we understand these fundamentals, there are 5 different places that our awareness can be to perceive our inner experience. And there are 2 main pathways that our energy distributes itself in our body. I want to talk about what is a trigger and what is a trauma. How do you know that there is a trauma? In your own experience, put it in the comments. What tells you that you have trauma there to deal with? Or what tells you that you're triggered? What's the experience like? Identifying anxieties. So I'm guessing that you get anxious about something. So you realize that your fight and flight mechanisms are activated. You're anxious. Rumination, another great one. I know that I have some emotional stuff to work out because I'm ruminating on stuff. Heat in my face, constricted chest. Here we have those inner sensations and the body's behaving a certain way unconsciously. Intense bodily activation, getting really hot. Biofeedback, fancy word for inner sensations. And I love it. Biofeedback, tightness, weight, shutdown. So that could be emotional or physical shutdown. The idea here that I'm going to lay out is that these 5 channels of awareness are like pieces of a digestive system that is perfectly designed to digest emotional energy. Think about your digestive system. You got the stomach, you got the liver and the gallbladder, you got the small intestine, you got the large intestine, you got the colon, you even have like the, your mouth and mastication and salivation, right? You have all of these pieces that have to work together to move food through the system to gain its nutrients and expel the waste. These 5 channels of awareness, mind, our thoughts, our agreements, our beliefs, imagination, any of the imagined senses, posture, inner sensations, and emotions. All of these are pieces of a digestive system that, if used well, can help you digest emotional energy. A lot of times, like with rumination, is a really, really great example of this. Rumination, it's just looping in the head. You're driving home after you have that fight and you are just replaying it, and it's just replaying in your head, and you're thinking about all those things you should have said, and it just keeps going and keeps going. It's because you're trying to digest this emotional meal only using your stomach. And it's not getting past there because you're not actually utilizing the rest of the system, because we weren't trained to do this. People are like, feel your feelings. You're like, how? How do I do it? What is the steps? And this is how you can do it. Now, unfortunately, there's no very clear, concise system that I can give you to do this. But fortunately, you have everything you need to do it. Your intuition is going to be a really, really great guide. And we're going to learn some tools together to activate these different channels of awareness and help ourselves digest our meals. So when we have a trauma or a trigger, I would make the argument, wow, you guys are giving lots of great comments here. So when we're triggered and when there's trauma, people are noticing things like that they're putting in the comments right now: contraction, hot flashes, gut wrenching, defensive rage, which is potentially a behavior that the body is doing. Maybe I yell, maybe I freak out, maybe I shame the other person for making me feel my feelings. Tightness or confusion, maybe it's shut down. We often think of fight, flight, and freeze as these really, really big expressions, but oftentimes they're very subtle. I know people that with very little activation in their system can just like get quiet. They start to fawn. They start to shut down. Their speech starts to slow down. They get a little dissociated. Sometimes it's not really big energy that makes this happen. It's a little bit of activation. So as we go into some practices here, what I mean by activation is go ahead and think of something that in a tolerable range irritates you. So I'm not talking about like the biggest trigger of your life here. I'm talking about something manageable. Think about something that just pisses you off a little. Now, how do you bring it to mind? I'm guessing that you're using your mind to think a thought. You might be imagining your memory of what it's like. So here we are in those two channels. Now let's explore a little bit. There's charge in the system. If you're actually connecting with a trauma or trigger, then there's going to be some activation in your system. How does it happen for you? Just keep holding this thought. Now, did your body shift at all? How much can you be in the posture channel here? Did your breathing change? If this is a tolerable amount of charge, please don't take yourself further than you can go safely here. But if you're comfortable just being a little irritated for a second, can you move your body into a position that actually helps you feel the anger? So moving out of the mind, out of the rumination, and actually into the body. Is there a position that can actually express what it feels like to be a little frustrated? And what does it do when you put your body into this position? What does it do to the inner sensations and emotions? I'm noticing that for me, I just took a deep breath, deep spontaneous breath, and I actually feel a little calmer now. So if that didn't happen for you, that you feel a little bit calmer, can you allow your body to do something that feels like it would be soothing or comforting? It might have started doing it on its own. You might have been holding on to this frustrated thought, and you might have noticed your body rocking ever so slightly. Or you might have noticed a hand come onto the chest or clasp in front of you. This is a self-soothing kind of posture. Your body was already doing what it intuitively wanted to do to calm itself down. And if it's not, then I encourage you to start thinking about what the resolution of this irritating thing would be like. What do you want to happen instead of that? And as you think about that, notice what starts to happen again in the posture channel. If your nervous system is already in need of a lot of support, then even exercises like this can feel like a lot. And if it does, I encourage you to open your eyes and come out. Let's be really gentle with yourself. How about we don't go 10 out of 10 today and just like be really, really gentle? Ooh, I see some yawning happening. Awesome little somatic purges of energy. Beautiful. So again, just holding on to the thought of what would it be like if this was resolved, or just staying in the noticing of this comforting posture that emerged. If you have any expression of what this was like, you can put it in the chat. I noticed I stopped breathing. Amazing. Tense, and then a sigh and a stretch. Awesome. There's almost a humming after I made a self-soothing posture. Beautiful. Deeper breath and sitting up straight. Awesome. So a little side note about the posture channel, which is so cool, is that the posture, there's a really cool TED talk on this. Big, wide open postures can actually change the chemical balances in your bloodstream. It changes your stress hormones, it changes your testosterone levels, which makes you feel more confident. AKA, choosing with our conscious mind to put ourselves in a posture can change things on the unconscious mechanisms of how our body is running the show. Same thing for if we're unconsciously putting ourselves in postures, we might be releasing stress hormones. We might be releasing the chemical cocktail that makes us feel the emotion of anger. Our body wires in our emotions in so many ways. It expresses our emotions, it shows us what's up on the unconscious levels, and it programs the unconscious levels to a certain degree. And this is science, which is really, really cool. Amy Cuddy, thank you. She had a great TED talk on this. If you look up power stances TED talk, you'll find it. Is this why yoga feels so good? Heck yeah, it does. It releases all kinds of amazing endorphins and hormones in your system that just feel so delicious. It also is really calming for the nervous system because think about it, there's moments of rest and activation in a yoga session. And this is the last thing I want to talk about before we get into some more juicy, actual felt experiences and exercises, is that think about the digestive tract. What moves food along it is peristalsis, AKA there's a tightening and then an opening and a tightening and an opening and a tightening and an opening. This contraction and expansion is, in this metaphor, what moves emotional energy through our system. So if we try to process an emotion and we're just all contraction, we're all, oh, I hate this. Oh, I feel the bad feeling. Oh, feel my feelings. Oh, feel the bad feeling. Oh, fight my demons. Oh, we're actually not moving the emotion. And if you're like me and you're hella intense and you have lived your life wanting to do the work and heal and do the things, you might be the kind of person that accidentally burns your nervous system out a little bit because you're just all contraction when you're feeling your feelings. Or you might be the opposite and be a little bit avoidant of your stuff and be all expansion. Nothing's ever really a problem. I'm good. That's fine. Psh, got kicked out of my house and my kids hate me, but my guides, they're just like taking care of me. We're good. You're all expansion and no contraction. Our body, in order to move emotions through this digestive tract of our channels of awareness, needs moments of contraction, AKA moments of feeling the hard thing, the edgy thing, the thing that hurts a little. And then it needs moments of rest and safety and, hey, it's going to be okay. And then moments of, oop, it's hard. Okay, we're going to go feel the hard feeling, have the hard experience. And then moments of, whew, it's going to be okay. Feel totally grounded and safe. Now, ultimately, we want to feel safe the whole time. We never want to go into a contraction of feeling our feelings that's like way beyond what we can handle, because that's how trauma happens. And trauma is reversible and it's healable and it's okay. But that is what makes us dissociate or go into that deep freeze response, is because we're doing something that's beyond our capacity to do. So ideally, we want to do this with our emotions in the channels of awareness of go towards the thing that hurts and then go towards the thing that eases it. Now, how do we connect this to understanding rumination? So let's try this. If rumination is your thing, your go-to, then great. If it's not, then you know what it's like to have a really irritating thought that's hard to get out of your head. Yes, repressed emotion makes us sick. And emotion that is expressed in a way that's damaging for our nervous system and our relationships also ain't doing us any favors. So let's learn a little bit about how to do this in a felt experience. Let's go into the imagination channel. And let's imagine something that just makes you feel calm and peaceful. So we're going to start out with expansion. It can be something little, like your cup of coffee in the morning, or your dog, or your favorite location, or taking a shower. Whatever it is, just bring yourself there and use the imagined senses. Use what would it sound like if it made a sound? What temperature would your body be if you were there or experiencing that thing? What would you taste, smell, hear? And do this until you can feel sensations and emotions that reflect this ease, this peace, this just a little bit more safe, a little bit more easy. Now, if I were doing this with you one on one, I would force you to stay here until I see your body relax, until I see maybe a deep, spontaneous breath, or I actually see your nervous system respond to this positive experience, this positive thought. And now let's titrate to a little bit of contraction. And I want you to think about an experience that you would really like to change. Maybe it's the last thing you were ruminating about. Maybe it's just something that you feel on your day to day, like a lack of confidence or like frustration about something. And see what happens when you contract, when you come into contact with this thing that kind of hurts. Now we're going to stay in the imagination channel. And I want you to see what happens in your imagination channel when you make contact with this contracting emotion or contracting experience. Meaning maybe you visualize it. Maybe you visualize the person, or maybe you visualize the energy in the body that happens when you feel this feeling. There is no way to do this right. But just see, can you visualize it? Is there a color? Is there a sound? Is there a certain location that you're in your imagination? You're probably aware of body sensations, maybe emotions are there. Just stay in the imagination channel. And now we're going to go back into something that feels safer, but we're going to stay in the imagination channel. So I invite you to either put a protective boundary around this thing you're looking at, something in between you and that thing that makes you feel a little safer. A wall, a force field, a barrier. What would make you feel safer if it were between you and the thing that you're looking at or imagining? Do you feel what's happening in your body as you create this safe container around this thing? Do you feel what's happening in the body sensations and emotions? Do you notice any shifting in the way your body's behaving? Maybe your weight kind of shifts back. Maybe your breathing relaxes. If you need a little bit more support, maybe you imagine a lot of space between you and this stressor. Maybe you imagine taking some steps back or even putting it as far away from you as you need in order to feel safe. Maybe you even imagine you have exactly what you need to deal with this thing. Maybe you have a friend next to you. Maybe you have a sword. Maybe you say exactly what you need to say, but they actually look like they're hearing you and receiving you when you say it. You'll know that you're coming into safety and ease in the nervous system when you feel it in the inner sensations and emotions. That's how you know you've successfully titrated to this expansion, this ease. Now, come out with me for a second to just make contact with us in the room. Really enjoying this, but my son walked in. We'll catch up on the replay. Great. Yep. So many different things. Yep. I was just about to talk about this, Sarah Drake. Not sure if I focused wrong, but I felt more activated. So this is what I mean when there really is no way to do this right. What you know is that when it's working, you'll be able to feel in the inner sensations and emotions, easefulness, peace, safety, and then you'll be able to feel the activation. You'll be able to safely feel frustration, sadness, even little bits of overwhelm. You'll be able to come into contact with the trigger, and then you'll be able to bring yourself back out of it to a place of safety. Now, in this example, we used one channel primarily. We used the imagination channel. We imagined the stressor in order to bring that charge into the system. And then we imagined things that helped bring about a feeling of safety in contact with the stressor. We can do this with all of the channels. We can do this with the posture channel. We can get into a position that makes us feel that bad feeling, or we can find where in the room we could stand that would feel the safest. And if that's really hitting the spot for us, we could actually put ourselves in a position that makes us feel protected. There are ways to move the body that will escalate you into contact with the pain, and there are ways to use the body to bring you into contact with safety. Same thing as we did with the imagination channel. There are ways to use it that bring you into contact with the stressor, and ways to use it that bring you into contact with the safety. With the sensation emotion channels, it's a little bit different, but I wanted to address this is that some people, maybe they focused wrong or they're crying a lot. Often what happens is that when we are so used to feeling a little unsafe, so used to feeling a little unprotected, a little stressed out, and we start to imagine safety, we start to imagine something that's supposed to make us feel safe, our body's like, ah, that's so different. This doesn't feel right. I don't feel safe feeling safe. And so that actually becomes the stressor. And so if you are practicing with this, it's not about what should make you feel safe and calm. It's about what does make you feel safe and calm. And if you're having a really hard time and you're stuck in escalation, or you're stuck in, oh, everything's fine and I can't reach escalation, change the channel. Change the channel. AKA, I'm trying to feel safe. I'm in the imagination channel. I'm imagining a barrier. I don't feel safe, still crying, still feel like shit. I'm imagining it moving away from me. Oh, still crying, still feel like shit, still feel awful. Change the channel. Go into the posture channel. Try that out. How can I move my body in a way that would make me feel safe? Could I go to my bed and get under my covers? Would that hit the spot? Can I go on a walk? Can I actually just make a posture that feels a little bit comforting? And can I allow myself to actually receive that 3% that feels a little better instead of the 97% that still doesn't feel safe? Can I actually force myself to focus on the thing that feels right and safe and calm here instead of all of the other escalation? We talk about this in a lot of my programs about what it's like and what it looks like to get stuck in the kind of sympathetic activated nervous system, and what it's like to get stuck in the parasympathetic de-escalated nervous system. Oftentimes, if you are trying to feel safe in these exercises and it's making you feel upset and aroused, it's because you're kind of stuck in the sympathetic nervous system. You've probably been there for a long time. No shame in the game. I was there for like my whole life until a couple of years ago, until I like figured this stuff out. And it means that you might be trying to feel safe. I'm hearing a little bit of an echo. Is there somebody with their sound on? If there is, please turn it off. I lost my train of thought.
You figured your stuff out.
Thank you. If you are trying to feel safe and it's not working, do whatever you need to do in this next exercise to help yourself feel a little bit safer. And one of my favorite safety breaks when all else fails and shit's really hitting the fan internally, try this with me. Tap, just tap. in whatever way you want to. And then the technique is you just say whatever you're experiencing, followed by I love and accept myself. And then keep doing it. And then keep doing it. And what it sounds like for me oftentimes is I'm feeling scared and I love and accept myself. I don't feel like I love and accept myself and I love and accept myself. I'm thinking that this is bullshit and I love and accept myself. I'm feeling a little bit better and I love and accept myself. I am feeling stupid for doing this and I love and accept myself. I am feeling actually a lot better and I love and accept myself. So I will keep doing it with whatever is in my head, followed by I love and accept myself. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to think it will work. I promise you, this is a really effective safety break. And I wanted to teach it to you before we actually like really deep dive into a little somatic experience as we kind of come to the end of this workshop here. So the basic idea is that I love that people are like kind of tapping all over the place. This is great. The chest is great, but also tap away. The world is your oyster. This is such a cool therapy because there is no exact roadmap. There are principles about how your body works and how your body processes energy. And then you get to creatively use those in whatever way works for you. Change the channel by nodding off a bit. Brownie points for feeling safe, at least. Great job. So the freebie that you're going to get from me is a little mini course called the Fundamentals of Somatic Therapy. It's going to go over each of these channels and give you ideas about how to use these channels to either move towards safety or move towards tension, towards the escalation. Because the idea here is that if there's a trauma or if there's a trigger, what's happening actually is that there is a link between stimuli and response that's not doing you any favors. The stimuli could be, I remember it. And the response in my body could be, I feel sick to my stomach. Or somebody calls me that word is the stimuli, and I start to cry is the response. Or I see that place in the road where the accident was is the stimuli, and my body starts to shake and I get anxious and can't think straight is the response. The only way that we have trauma is there's this link between stimuli and response that's like fucking with us. And maybe it's really easy to identify, like the ones I just said, or maybe it's a lot harder to identify because it's a slower process. Maybe it's just like, why do I feel kind of dissociated all the time? I don't even know exactly what the trigger is. Why do I have this autoimmune condition? I don't even know what's messing with my nervous system. How much time do we have left, Charlene?
You have 10 to 15 minutes. And
Great.
then so for everyone, we have 30 more minutes total and you have 15 more minutes to wrap up.
Great. So if you have any very pressing questions, they might be answered in the little freebie, but you're free to ask them now. And we're going to go into an exercise to maybe help unwire a trigger that you've been working on. This, if you do not feel resourced and you do not have practiced safety breaks under your belt, then maybe this isn't the time to try to work on the deepest trauma of your life. But if you're hella experienced, Adrian, could you put it in the chat instead? That would be awesome. If you are feeling super resourced and you're like, no, I really want to work on this trigger. It keeps happening all over my life is that I keep feeling this way. I keep feeling this kind of feeling and I really want to work on it. And I really want to change my body's relationship to this stimuli. Then great. You can pick something that you want to work on. What role does grief of past events play in this work? So that is a really great question. And it kind of brings me to we explored some ideas about what we can do with the imagination channel to bring us to safety or bring us to trigger. And we explored some things about what we could do in the posture channel to bring us to safety or bring us to trigger. There are things that we can do in the mind channel as well. But in the sensation and emotion channels, there's less that we can do. And so we have to be a little bit more, we have to hold space for those in a different way. AKA, if I'm feeling a sensation, then my goal, if I can stay safe and resourced, is to just let that sensation be exactly what it is. That's how this channel digests energy. So if it's hot and it's right here, I'm going to let it be as hot as it wants. I'm going to let it be hot, hot, hot. What else is it? Is it tight? I'm going to let it be tight. I'm going to let it be exactly what it is. Not because I want to get rid of it, but because I want to be with it in love, which actually makes it disintegrate. I can't do this with the intention of making it go away, because that's rejecting it. But I can be with the truth of the sensation, and it actually brings love there, and it brings safety there, because I'm not rejecting the feeling that I'm having. I'm actually being with it. That's what helps this channel digest. But if I stay there for too long, it's like an intestine trying to move food through it just by contracting. You can't do that forever, right? So I'm going to sit with it for as long as I feel like is helpful for me. I'm going to try to let it be the sensation that it is. And then I'm going to use my mind, imagination, and posture to move myself to a place of rest and ease until I genuinely feel sensations of relief, release, expansion. And then maybe I'll go back for another round when I'm resourced. Might be a minute from now, or might be 4 days from now. But try to do it again and let. Same with emotions. Like, feel it, even if it hurts. Fuck yeah. But give myself a break when I need it. Because you can't just hate yourself into being okay. Because you can't war your way into emotional coherence, right? If I'm doing it with this desperate energy, I'm probably not setting myself up for success. I got to be able to be patient with my own limits for what my nervous system can handle. Same thing with emotions. So with the sensation and emotion channel, these channels work by letting and allowing. So if I'm feeling sad, I'm just going to feel sad. If I'm feeling grief, I'm going to feel grief. And then I'm going to use those 3 conscious channels to move myself into spaces of rest and hope whenever I need. And I'm going to titrate between these 2 states. Okay? So emotional peristalsis, what an illuminating image. Gross, but it works. And emotional processes aren't always pretty. And so I encourage you in this process that we're about to go through together, just this short exercise, that I want you to be, this whole therapy is about being with what is true. Now, the truth might be, I feel anxious, I feel tight, and I feel scared. That's the truth. That's the truth. But if you need a break from that feeling, then what's also true is probably that tight, excruciating feeling has an edge. There's probably a part where it starts to loosen up. Maybe it's out here. Maybe it's in your toes, where it feels a little less shitty. That's also the truth. This isn't about being with the truth and then avoiding it. This is about being with different aspects of the truth that either bring your nervous system into activation or bring your nervous system into relaxation. But it's all about being with what's true. So can you speak to resistance in trauma, not avoiding, but resisting the initial trauma nugget? So a great way to think about this is if your trauma happened and it was surrounding a certain situation, let's say a car accident, but just because I don't want to name other things that were coming to my mind that were like truly terrible, because some of us have been through some shit. So I don't want to trigger you. Think about a car accident. Maybe the trauma happened in that car accident and it was around you dissociating because you felt so out of control. Well, then maybe you don't have to work on the memory of the car accident in this container. Maybe you can work on smaller ways that you struggle with feeling out of control, like your partner not putting groceries away right. That probably brings up a little out of control, but it's probably a more manageable situation to work on that feeling. So choose your own adventure here. We're going to work on some sort of thing that's annoying or that kind of hurts. That trigger, leaving all of his stuff around. Great. Awesome place to focus for this little experience we're about to have. And I'm going to put on some music. Oh, wait, am I sharing my audio?
You are, you're already connected.
Great. So whatever that irritation, trigger, trauma is for you. I want to start on a good note by thinking about sometime when you don't feel that way. Sometime when you feel better. If the trigger is I feel disrespected, then when do I feel the most respected? If the trigger is I feel unsafe, then when do you feel safe? So really just bringing yourself into a state of ease and relaxation. Maybe you just imagine your happy place. Do whatever you need to do to feel a little bit of safety. Sometimes being in our head about, am I doing this right, can be a defense mechanism. You know what it's like to feel a little safer. Just let it happen. Do whatever you got to do. Yeah. Where in the body do you feel the most peace? And if you are like, I don't know, then where do you think your body feels the most at peace? Now, bring to mind or imagination that thing that you want to work on. Maybe you imagine the experience that makes you feel it, but ultimately there's a feeling here that your body is having trouble feeling. Maybe it's when this person acts this way, or when this thing happens, it makes me, Maybe it's when I remember that thing, this starts to happen, but think about it, summon it in a way that actually helps you feel the charge in your system. And now, where is that activation in your body? Now, name sensations. Does it feel tight or loose? Does it feel hot or cold? Does it feel like it's moving or staying still? And actually physically try to feel it, even if it's uncomfortable. If you need a break, you can open your eyes, do that tapping exercise. But if it's okay to sit with for a minute, you can sit with it. If it's too intense right in the middle of the feeling, then maybe you move out to the edge where you can still feel it, but it's not a 10. Maybe it's a 3. Find somewhere you can stay in contact with the physical sensation. And just let it feel. And then when you find even just 3% of relief, follow the 3%. What sensation is it there? Does it start to loosen? Does it feel like breath expanding outward from that sensation? Can you visualize what it looks like, this relief? Do whatever you need to. Change up this song. Do whatever you need to bring yourself into a place of a little bit more ease, a little bit more peace. Is there a way that you can move that would help you feel a little bit more complete right now? Maybe you put your hand on your body somewhere that would feel a little bit comforting. Or if you're still going into this feeling, and if you're still feeling it, then is there a way you can move that would actually not help you get rid of it, but help you feel it? The difference between screaming because you want to get it out and screaming because you want to satiate the part of yourself that needs to scream. So if you're moving to feel it, move to feel it, not to release it. And if you're moving to bring yourself back into comfort, then do that intentionally. But either way, I want all of us to land in a space that's a little bit more peaceful. Do whatever you need to do to get there. The tapping's always there if you need it. I am safe, I am protected, I am loved, I am connected. Again, if you need a break, you can take it. But when you find yourself landed in this safer place, I encourage you to open your eyes and just look around, make some contact with the room. Noticing what maybe your clothes feel like, what the air feels like, what you notice around you that you might not have noticed before. So this could have left people in all sorts of states. If you don't feel great, then that's allowed and that's okay. And I highly encourage you to take some time to tap and just be with it afterwards. This is my experience and I love and accept myself. This is my thought right now and I love and accept myself. Just do that until something starts to relieve or release. A lot of times our energetic bodies mimic each other's. Mine's real open to feeling feelings. So if you were really tapped into me, you might have opened some things up to feel some things that might have been repressed. That's great. It's all good news. But just be so kind to yourself as you come out of this workshop. I want to answer one last question before I hand it over to you, Charlene. There was somebody that asked how to use these tools actively during a triggering or upsetting situation. The Fundamentals of Somatics little mini series is going to be great for this. Ultimately, if you're just like, oh man, I'm triggered as fuck, then yeah, you can use this real time to be like, where am I triggered? Okay, it's right here. And I find the edge. All right, feeling better. That works. If we practice this, it will work. But if we practice this a lot, what's going to happen is that your autopilot nervous system setting is going to start orienting more towards like living from a place of safety in the world. It's like a defibrillator on the heart, where it's like if your nervous system's flatlined and it's either stuck in sympathetic or stuck in parasympathetic, and you do this titration with these channels, it'll start to reignite the pulse of a healthy nervous system that's going to flexibly respond to triggers. So ideally it's preventative, but yeah, it works real time and there's great tools in there. But ultimately it's about like, now I'm the type of person that has a bigger capacity to handle stress and that feels safe while I'm doing it. But yeah, these tools can work really real time. And I do have a little workshop around mastering a trigger. I get obsessive and have a hard time shifting out. Yep. So this is something that you get to work on now that you're really aware of maybe how it happens, is that if you're in stress in the channels and your system just wants to keep stressing and it wants to keep going towards the next wrong thing and it wants to, this part doesn't feel okay yet, I got to focus there, then you have to break that cycle. And this is what we talk about in the Become Challenge. This is how we break the pattern of staying in the sympathetic nervous system all the time, because it's not good for you to continually drive towards stress. You have to teach it to start focusing on the 3% that feels a little better instead of the rest that still feels bad. As you focus on that 3% that feels better, it's going to become 30. And then you keep focusing there and it's going to become 90. And then you're actually going to be feeling better. So you got to train the system to do that. Okay. Sorry, this is probably going over time.
You're perfect, babe. It's perfect timing. Thank you so much for a beautiful workshop and for an overview into one element of looking at the nervous system and somatics and emotions. I appreciate your leadership and your joy. How can we just give everybody, can everybody give Kaira a little love? We're going to wrap this up with a couple things. We're going to give you a couple gifts, but just for a moment before we go into that, if you can just share some love, some appreciation. One great way to do that is your key takeaway, or to share how you're feeling now, especially if there was a shift from the start to the end, or just purely a thank you. Yeah, this was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Kaira. Yay, we'll be here for more.
I do want to say something, by the way. So part of like doing this inner work is that it's never done. It's a yoga. You're not fixing yourself. You're not training your nervous system so it's healthy. It's a spectrum. We're always like striving towards regulation. But one of the things that I wanted to say is that I'm pausing my launches. The next launch of the 2-month program is in September. If you want to learn how to really do this, that's a great program. But what I'm doing is I'm actually creating a membership. I really wanted a way to teach this kind of stuff and really give trainings from a way that was like crazy cheap. I'm talking like $100 to $50 a month, to be doing trainings like this all the time, and weekly practices and weekly workouts and like all of this really good stuff. And so that's what I'm working on right now, but that's not up yet. And I just wanted to let you guys know, if this is something that you loved and you want to keep the price point cheap, that's going to be a great way to explore it later. And of course, the training is in September. And also, I really trust the training that Aura Institute has because of how they've ushered me through this process and the kind of mindsets they have around healing. There's so much like shared love and wisdom here. And so thank you so much for having me on, Charlene. And thank you guys so much for watching. It means so much to me, seriously.
Thank you, Kaira. So her membership would be wonderful if you're wanting just more personal practice and to be in a community. And we're going to share also a free gift. I'm going to put this in the chat right now, a gift from Kaira. And I also want to share a bit about the Aura Institute, because if you're looking for a world-renowned certification where you yourself can be a facilitator that you really trust, and for your clients, for the people that you work with, that you can be a facilitator like Kaira. Kaira didn't train with the Aura Institute, but she shared a bit about the 3-year training that she did, right? Kaira is a well-trained practitioner. And so what I know about Kaira is that you could put her in any situation with any person with any trauma, and she'd be able to navigate it. And the same happens for people who go through the Aura Institute. So the Aura Institute is often for people who are already coaching, doing healing work of some type, right? You already have a modality. We have many therapists and psychologists that come in because they realize that talk therapy and what they went to school for, often a PhD, is actually not enough to really work with clients in a really effective way where true change and transformation happens. And so the Aura Institute gives you, it's a certification in integrative trauma-informed practitionership. And there's a really big focus on somatics. And so Kaira just gave you a tool, and Aura Institute has a whole faculty of incredible facilitators, doctors, people are approaching it from a different perspective so that you'll really have a deep understanding and toolkit of how to walk anybody through a true healing experience. The foundation of the Aura Institute's methodology is that we want to give our clients or our patients, depending on the ecosystem you work with, the empowered tools to actually be their own healers, to be their own best guides. So there's not dependency on the practitioner, but that you become somebody who can differentiate yourself in the marketplace because you've been well trained, and you actually are creating an opportunity for your clients to be truly free. Because in the therapeutics industry, I know Kaira and I have a really similar like thought process on this. It's like, let's actually empower people. Let's actually help people be free. And when you go through the Aura Institute, you learn to do that with other people, but you also are walking yourself through this process. And so it's not necessarily designed to be a self-healing process. It's designed for you to learn the tools to facilitate it with other people. Kaira's membership is going to be a bit more about the self and having tools to just, if you're not necessarily wanting to work with clients, you're not necessarily looking for another certification, then this membership will be an amazing tool. I'm going to share just a couple of things here, and I'm seeing that there's a couple of questions. If you have any questions about the Aura Institute, please put them in here. If you have questions about the membership of Kaira's, I would say wait on that because she's still a few months out. And so if you're really interested in that, just be in touch with her and know that whatever questions you have, like it's not happening until September anyway. So it's just a seed planted as, you know, a future possibility. The Aura Institute has a training level 1 starting this weekend. It's a virtual training that happens over 8 weeks on the weekends. And it's okay if you can't join this weekend because it's so last minute. You can still join following the next week. But if you're like, you know what, you've been calling in something, you really want to develop yourself as an incredible facilitator, you want to have a certification that will actually, it's very supportive for people to get clients because you have something, a modality that you're actually certified and trained in. And it's a really integral, super potent somatics training where you'll learn a little bit of many different modalities so that you can actually be equipped, again, to deal with people's trauma, to help them navigate whatever they're going through with a lot of ease and power, right? Beyond talk therapy, beyond, and, you know, as I did a lot of years of coaching before I had somatic tools. And I'm telling you, and Kaira, you probably experience this, without the somatic tools, you're so limited in your ability to actually support people truly. You can only go so far through conversation in the mind, right? Even though we create through our minds, we can actually change our mind through our body. In fact, sometimes we have to change our mind through our body. So the certification is actually, you get CE credits if you're interested in that. It's certified through APA, through the Psychological Society. So because we have doctors in the training, if you're looking for something that has that more professional background, then Aura is amazing, but also has spirit. And then like Kaira, you know, a big thing that she's up to is actually with doing this work, but with plant medicine. So it's a different direction, right? So there's a lot of similarity in our work, but a different frequency. With Kaira, you train with Kaira. With Aura, you train with many incredible facilitators on a faculty that we've curated. And so I'm
Charlene,
can I
jump in here really quick?
Yep.
Because I love this differentiation, and this is why it just felt so good to collaborate. Because Aura Institute is going to be a more, like, a lot of people don't understand that somatic just means in relation to the body as opposed to the mind. There are so many somatic body-based modalities, tapping and EFT and EMDR, and there's so many different things to explore. And so if you want a taste of so many of those things, then Aura Institute's training is going to be amazing. And if you want to stick with understanding these fundamental mechanisms of how humans digest energy and how to do this part really, really well, then my training is in September. And they're both going to be fantastic. And I just have goosebumps everywhere. I love what you're doing, Charlene. And man, if there was somebody that you could trust to put something like this together, it would be her. I sing your praises. You're amazing. So the link to the Aura Institute is now in the chat. And I'm sure you guys are going to be sending out an email after this with all the info for all the things,
send
right?
out an email with Aura as well as the gift that I put in the chat, but we'll send it out with the replay. So Kaira has a gift that she has a code so that's free. We'll send out the Aura Institute. It's aurainstitute.org. And also for anybody who joins this upcoming training and does level 1 and 2, the Aura team has put together a $250 off discount. I'm going to put this in here. So once you register, or if you talk to Molly, usually people want to speak with somebody about the program and get a bit more details. So Molly Mendoza, who's also an incredible somatics facilitator, if you're on the dance body movement workshop we did a week and a half ago, that was her. She's the one who will take your call. I put the link right here, and Kaira just reposted it. That's just to schedule a 15-minute chat with Molly. And then when you register, you'll use Aura Mastery if you want the discount. I saw somebody ask about whether we're going to be doing it again. Yes, and this is the only level 1 that we have scheduled right now. Likely there'll be another one in September. Usually we have a cohort every quarter. So I believe that we're announcing the September dates. This discount is just for this upcoming one because we can take a few more people. We have a little over 40 people in the training. We usually have 40 to 50 people in the cohort, which is small enough to make it intimate. And you actually have a mentor throughout the process so that you'll really it's like you're really going to school. It's developed in the curriculum is potent and deep. You get a look into many of the modalities that Kaira mentioned, actually, and you'll have one-to-one support as you go through it with a whole team that really supports the school. And then the level 2 will happen later in the fall, and likely we're going to do a level 1 again in September. Let's see. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, if you asked a question that I didn't respond to, just reply to it because then it'll pop it back at the beginning. Is there a link to Aura Institute? Teresa, did you see that? aurainstitute.org. The pricing's in USD, yes. BF group. Do you mean Facebook group?
What I was going to say is that, if you want to keep up to date on the membership, or you just want like free little trainings like this, I do them in the Facebook group. If you go into your little fundamentals of somatics mini course, there's a link to the Facebook group in there. So I'd highly suggest checking out that course. Also, that'll put you on the email list so that when we actually launch the membership, you'll be kept up to date there. So the best ways to stay up to date are the Facebook group, and just keep checking in there. And that'll tell you about the training in September. That'll tell you about the membership when it's out. And we do free trainings in there all the time. There's like a backlog of half-hour little trainings that I've just done for free. You can listen to them like a podcast and you just like up the energy. So if you guys want to stay in contact with me, the Facebook group's a great place to do it. I'll leave a link in the comments, but also we'll send that out with the email. That would be great, Charlene.
I will. Adrian,
I see
your comment. Aura training was with every penny. I love that. That's so powerful.
Okay.
I'm so glad that you're here after going through it. And I see that Teresa, you're interested. Yeah, please. What's the link for the Aura Institute? So I hope that I know a bunch of you asked this while I was chatting. So hopefully you've seen that. Is there a way to take level 2 Aura classes for reduced rate? No, there's one price for level 1, level 2. We keep them really reasonable for this level of training and certification. I saw somebody ask if you need to attend every weekend. You do not need to be live. They're all recorded. You can participate via recording. However, in order to get CE credits, if that's relevant for you, you have to be live. So you only get continuing education credits. So like if you're a nurse or a social worker or a doctor, that becomes relevant. For other people, it doesn't really matter. And then you can participate via replay. So there's flexibility. Otherwise, it's a 3-hour class on Saturday and Sunday on the weekends. Okay, anyone else? So we'll just take 1 or 2 more questions. If you have any more questions about Aura before we send you off, to recap, the link for Aura Institute to read more about it is aurainstitute.org. I just put that back in the chat. I'm going to also just give the direct link for scheduling a chat with Molly Mendoza to ask any questions that you have. Also, of course, there's more information about the program on Aura's website. If you are going to do level 1 and level 2 to have the full certification, it's $250 off if you join this round. And so I'm just putting this in the chat, Aura Mastery. And then I'm also going to drop once more the Somatic Mastery gift from Kaira with the code, so you can get that as a gift. And then that will also lead you to the Facebook group to stay in touch with Kaira. Okay, so we're at our time.
That's a little mini course. Yeah.
We're at our time. And so I'm going to say we're going to officially end, but I'll also stay on for just 1 or 2 more minutes if anyone has an Aura question. Okay. Oh, I love that you just finished level 1. It was so empowering and moving. Oh, so deep. Thank you, Kaira, so much for being here, for the way that you shine and for all your creations. And I love that there's many people here who have been working with you, who have been excited to work with you. For some people, it's their first experience and you have served well. Thank you for coming into Aura's world and platform and sharing your gifts. Emily, I'll answer your question in a second. I'll answer any final Aura questions. I just want to honor Kaira and officially close the container so that if you don't have any more Aura questions that you can go. But thank you everybody for being here. If you want to revisit this work, you will get a replay by the end of today. Okay, and we are also doing a conference, a virtual conference in August. So we're going to have about 20 sessions of this nature. And so keep an eye out via email with that invitation. It's also a free gift so that I can keep featuring more amazing people like Kaira. And you'll actually get to do some practices with Aura facilitators as well as people with big audiences like Marissa Peter and Saw Simone and the Healing Feeling, if you know her on Instagram, and people just doing really amazing work in the wider domain of unconventional therapy. So we love you, Kaira. Thank you so much. And again, I'll just stay for another minute or two. So pop your questions if you have them. But for everyone else, have a beautiful, beautiful day. Okay. All right. Yay, I'm so happy you're doing level 1. What if you also want to send it for level 2, but can't do it until the spring? So that is a question. So in terms of technical questions like that, not my department. Please email Maria. You have the info at Aura Institute email. Maria, who does all the administration stuff, will be able to answer those questions for you. And I actually don't have the answer. So please just reach out to her and ask. It's info@aurainstitute.org is the email. Okay. Rye, I don't know if that's your name, Rye Latin Dance. And then somebody asked, if you're already signed up, do you get the $250 off? Again, I don't have the answer to that question. If you paid in full for level 1 and level 2, and you want to reach out to Maria and say, I was live on the workshop, I paid in full for level 1 and level 2, see what she says. I didn't ask that question ahead of time. We were just thinking it for people who wasn't registered, but you could totally make a case. However, that discount is only for people who signed up for level 1 and 2 and paid in full. So if that is you, or maybe you did a payment plan and you want to pay in full so you can get the $250 off, that would be a strong case. And they're very reasonable people, and everything is held with a lot of care and integrity. And so if you ask for something and it makes sense, and it feels good for you, and it feels an integrity for you to actually ask that, then trust yourself, right? Yay, Hadley, I'm so glad you're doing level 2 in September. Amazing. What is the pricing for all levels? So Jessica, the program is for both level 1 and 2 is $4,200. Okay. 4,200, 4,250 specifically when you get the $250 off. Okay. Any other questions before we wrap up? Can we just talk about how wild my hair looks? Not a good hair day, but sometimes you just got to show up anyways. It's very humid in Boston where I am right now. I'm here at Harvard doing a master's degree, and I'm at summer school and just making the best of it. Thank you, Kaira. Thank you. All right, then we're going to wrap up. Thank you again, everyone, for being here. Bye.